DALLÄSTHETIC podcast number 38 with Ray-Mel Cornelius. Welcome, Ray-Mel.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. As you could probably see, Ray-Mel is a sci-fi artist. His most recent series is about the moon people taking over the Earth. Is that right?
Well, not entirely.
Okay.
It would have been when I was a teenager, probably.
Right.
But now, not so much. One of the images was a moon landscape, which, the sort of the theme of this show is making small things large and large things small. So I decided in the course of doing some landscapes on very small canvases, I would include the moon. It was about the same time as the anniversary of the moon landing, so
that's
just
perfect.
seemed appropriate.
Yeah, seems appropriate. So the show is called SuperNature.
Yes.
And like you said, you're making big things small and small things big.
Yes.
What are some other themes that kind of occur in the show?
I think that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Well, when did you first start painting?
Well, I've been drawing since I could pick up a pencil.
Right.
So, actually putting paint on canvas, when I was a kid, what really got me started thinking in terms of this being some sort of profession was the first art I was familiar with or became aware of was media art, book and newspaper, magazine illustrations and cartoons and comics. And I was really into comic books and comic book art at the beginning. And I thought I wanted to be a comic book artist, as probably a lot of boy artists do think
I would imagine.
at the beginning. And so it never occurred to me at the time that I would need to paint anything because I was going to be drawing in ink.
Right.
That's what comic books were. And then I discovered a magazine, a horror comics magazine called Creepy, that had painted covers by Frank Frazetta and some other illustrators in that sort of genre. And I said to myself, well, I need to learn to paint also.
Yeah.
So I started taking oil painting lessons from a nice lady in my hometown. And it was me at age 14, I guess.
Wow.
And a lot of older ladies who were doing it as a hobby. So I was sort of their mascot.
That's quite something.
It was a lot of fun.
And then went off to college to study art?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you go to, now it's East Texas State University is what it was, right?
It was then, yeah.
And it's A&M Commerce.
Right.
What was it like out there?
Well, it was great because I didn't know that was just the closest university to where I lived. And I wanted to commute if possible.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in Royce City, which is a small town about 30 miles east of Dallas. And Commerce, which is where East Texas was was about 30 miles farther.
Okay.
And so it was in Commerce, Texas, which is kind of a small, town far away, really.
Yeah.
Royce City has the advantage of being close to Dallas, at least it's close to a metropolitan area. But Commerce is way out there. So it could easily have been just a podunk, go nowhere, do nothing college. And it did have kind of a specialty in agriculture and teaching professions. Of course, nothing wrong with either of those, but they weren't what I was into.
Yeah.
But I got lucky because it had a really good art department, and both in fine art and in what was then called commercial art. And there was a lot of interaction. They were all in the same building, and a lot of times there's some friction between the fine and so-called commercial arts. But there was a lot of symbiosis, a lot of interaction between the two departments, and they really influenced each other.
Did you at first study commercial art?
I did, yes.
And that led to a career in illustration for a while, right?
Right. Like I said, the first art I was aware of was media-oriented art, and that's really, I knew that, the classic paintings were out there, and I knew there was some sort of, as I learned as I got older, there was some sort of, a contemporary art seen in the world.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have any personal experience with it. You know, we didn't go to museums and things like that. So, and seeing illustration was what led me to believe, like I said, that there was a way of making a living at this.
Right.
That was all I wanted to do. That
Yeah.
was all it really was good for, to speak of, because I don't have any other skills. And so that's what I pursued.
And my grandfather was an illustrator his whole life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and on occasion he would do a personal painting, still in airbrush.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was in airbrush. So then you decided, I want to be a painter, right?
Yeah. Well, I was an illustrator for 30-something years, and I still love and have a lot of respect for illustration as an art form. The business of it, I'm not so enamored with, and it got, after a while, it got more and more frustrating and sort of tedious. And all along, even from the beginning, I was always doing work on my own. You know, illustration is an art form that is at the service of some other form of communication, like
Right.
literature or music. But I also did work for myself. Not a lot of it, because I was moderately successful as an illustrator, so that kept me pretty busy. But then about 8 years ago, I got the opportunity to get, I'd been teaching for many years before that, but I got
Right.
the opportunity to actually be full-time. And the schedule is such that it allows me a lot of time to pursue my own stuff. And it helps pay the bills,
Right.
along with my lovely wife, Becky, also helps pay the bills, and has benefits and, health
Yeah.
insurance and that sort of thing. So, which is sort of hard to come by when you're freelancing.
Oh yeah.
And I decided to, since I had that opportunity, I decided to quit illustration entirely and just devote myself to strictly painting. And I'd actually been doing work for, I started getting into galleries like in 1996 or 97, but was still, primarily an illustrator.
Right.
But so now that's all I do is paint my own things.
That's great. I mean, you've got the freedom to imagine things as you want them and to put them on canvas.
Yes.
And when you first made that jump, was it scary or was it just so exciting?
No, it wasn't. There was nothing scary about it. Like I said, I've been doing sort of that all along, and it was kind of freeing.
So it was nice hanging up the.
Yeah, it's a kick to see do a book cover.
Yeah.
And then walk into a random bookstore anywhere in the country and see that on the shelf. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, but
Paintings, somebody is generous enough to buy one, and they hang it on their wall, and visitors see it. So it's not not as
high exposure
yeah,
necessarily.
but it's a lot more satisfying. Actually.
Yeah.
Personally satisfying.
So you've been known for painting animals into your work quite often.
Yes.
What you have a fondness for nature, clearly. What draws you to that?
I think that I've given it a certain amount of thought. Once I decided to start painting completely on my own, then the question is, okay, what is the subject matter going to be?
Right.
And after some self-reflection, I decided that, I grew up in a small town, actually on a farm outside of a small town, and I was surrounded by a great amount of space. We had a 360-degree view of the horizon,
Wow.
just about. And so that was an environment that I had some affection for. Not so much the farming lifestyle, but just the environment. Yeah. And I've found myself wherever I've lived, most places I've managed to have a lot of space around me, like something as simple as big windows,
Yeah.
you know, and set back from the street, even if it was in the city far enough that it just seemed like there was a lot of space around me and a lot of light. So that's sort of became my subject matter.
And also it seems like your last show at Row 2 Art a couple of years ago, it was every day, and in there you also had kind of landscapes as well, but they were like places,
Right.
and they're very idealized. And something you notice about your work is your color palette tends to be kind of happy.
Yeah.
I guess you've come to realize that as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that in general, not every minute of every day, of course, but
Yeah.
in general, I'm a pretty happy person. Happy with what I'm doing, and also the color palette. I think that probably came from comics also, and I've always been a big fan of pop art. For that, probably there's a connection there. So a lot of this is subconscious. I don't really think about it too
Right.
much. I just do it, and but if I start trying to analyze it, that's sort of what the conclusions I've come to.
Yeah.
So why do I use colors the way I do? And I think that's probably has a lot to do with it, and being happy, being
Yeah.
a happy person.
Yeah. I mean, they're not unrealistic. They're just
Right.
really bold and vibrant,
Yeah.
And when you're in an exhibition with your work, you just kind of, you feel good.
Well, that's good.
And that's something I've always enjoyed and really look forward to this next month at the gallery is kind of being surrounded by that kind of environment.
Well, that's good to hear.
Got some images here
Cool.
from the exhibition, just a few of the paintings. We can talk about them, or we
Sure.
can just watch. But
That's an elephant.
that is an elephant.
And I don't do a lot of sort of exotic animals,
No.
but considering the theme of large into small, small into large, there are actually three of those in that series. There's a whale, an elephant, and a bison,
Right.
and they're all very large animals. And so that was sort of my in trying to decide, okay, what large animals are you going to do? I mean,
Yeah.
those are pretty big ones, and the elephant was fine.
What made you think to put the elephant just kind of like in front of a color?
Well, that's sort of the motif, I guess, for
yeah.
all of them, and just to keep it in a series.
Right. You've done a few bisons.
Yeah.
Here's the bee, a bee in flight, and that's a pretty magical piece.
No, thanks.
One thing that I
He's a big guy.
found, it's still the biggest you've done, right?
Well, yes, on canvas.
On
You know, I
canvas,
did
yeah.
that rooster mural.
Oh, well,
on
yeah.
the cliff. That's
That's
like 9 feet
Pretty
high.
pretty large.
But that was the biggest one ever. But this is the next biggest one.
And the bee, one thing that I found interesting was we watched the progress of it a little bit on Facebook, and it was purple at first. And
Yeah.
so that's your underpainting, right?
That's an underpainting, right? I paint from dark to light. Light is an additive element, without.
Just like it naturally is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in nature, without stars or the sun, space would be black.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but light through stars and the sun obviously illuminates things, and it molds or it sculptures an object, like light's falling on us now.
Yeah.
And it's what gives our faces the form that it has. visually.
Interesting. I hadn't given that as much thought. So then I believe next we've got the dragonfly, and you've got some text here, which I've never seen in your work. No alien in science fiction compares to any dragonfly. Is that a haiku?
It is.
Wow.
It is. It's 575.
I was trying to remember whether it was 343 or five. Yeah, so it's 575.
Yeah.
Did you write that yourself?
I did, of course. Yeah, I started in New Mexico. We have a sort of a porch with a rocking chair that I spend time on, and things happen in the meadow outside the porch, and so I tended to start writing little haikus about what was going on, and I had a good time doing it.
Yeah, I bet.
And I thought that might be kind of a fun addition to paintings, to incorporate some text, and specifically some of those haikus.
For sure. And that's in a couple paintings, right? You've got
Yeah, there's 5 of them.
5 of them.
Haikus
Wow.
in them.
That's
6
nice.
maybe,
I really
6.
like text and art, and
Yeah.
that you've created that text is also pretty special.
That's kind of a contemporary thing to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
in art.
Yeah, it is. Let's see what we've got next. Well, let's see. We've got a rooster.
Yeah.
You've been painting roosters for quite some time.
They were part of my daily life on the farm, and they were farm animals that I had the most connection to, for lack of a better term. We had horses and we had cows, and I didn't like riding horses. All of my young friends were very envious of me because I had horses available at any time, and I
didn't
did
care to
not
ride
like
them.
It. No,
Wow.
did not like horses at all.
What was it about the roosters that?
Well, it sounds weird. They're a little friendlier, I think, than.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, roosters per se, but
Yeah.
chickens are generally friendlier, I think, than. I mean, they're not like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But they're not like cows. Could care less.
Yeah.
And obviously, as I said, horses and I never got along. But I don't know. It's
Horses
just
can be
something about-
tough.
They're the chickens, roosters in particular, have a lot of personality. I've
Yeah, they
always
do.
enjoyed, and a lot of arrogance, really.
Yeah.
They actually, I think, believe that they cause the sun to rise.
Really?
With their crowing.
Oh, wow. I could see that. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. If they think that deep, which they may
If
not.
they do,
but-
they may. They very well may. I mean, there are probably only so many things they can obsess about.
Yeah.
And that would be one of them.
That would be one. The other one would probably be making more little chickens. But
Yeah. So I think that
Those
there
are
was
those
a
2 jobs.
The flower here. This has got text, I believe, too, right?
yes. Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then another flower.
Yeah. That one a friend said was sexy AF, I think is the phrase. Didn't intend for it to be, but I'll accept that.
It's got some appeal, I would assume. And what made you paint the spaceship?
Well, I did, for Chaos, I did a couple of paintings of, again, sort of making big things small.
Yeah.
That was sort of a precursor to this. And I did Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I did King Kong. And they were both titled, they were numbered giant movie monsters on a small canvas, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, Godzilla is not going to be in the show because somebody bought it.
Yeah.
But King Kong is still there.
Great.
And or planned for it to be. And so I felt like I needed a companion. And what other large thing that I have a interest or affinity for could I put? I guess it's a little bit of an outlier since it's not really nature.
But it's cool.
Yeah,
And you know, they sometimes might occur in nature.
Right, right. In New Mexico, especially.
Yeah.
But another little thing about that was that I had sort of a childhood fantasy that explained why I felt so fish out of water in
Really?
my existence. That then I was dropped off by aliens.
How cool.
I knew I wasn't, but it was kind of sort
was
of
a nice
you know,
thing to
the
think
thing
about.
to think. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
That would be why. That would explain a lot of things.
That could have saved me a lot of time if I had thought of that.
So you know, flying saucers and the whole thing, but just the idea appealed to me. So
Yeah.
we'll
Cool.
see where it goes from there.
And then you did some state birds.
Yes. Yeah.
And I guess there aren't 50 state birds, are there?
No, there are 29. A lot of birds share, a lot of states rather share the birds. Like I think the mockingbird has 4 or 5 states.
I would think so. Are there any really weird choices out there?
I don't know. Most of them seem pretty obvious.
Seem to make sense.
Yeah.
No dodo birds or anything?
No.
That wouldn't
Rhode
bode
Islands.
well for-
Rhode Islands is the ring-necked. It's hard to say. Pheasant, which is kind of a weird
There's-
choice because you wouldn't
little
think you'd
bit.
see a lot of those, but maybe they have a lot of them in Rhode Island. New Mexico is a roadrunner, so.
Oh, really?
That makes a certain amount of sense.
Did you paint a roadrunner?
I did.
Cool. And there'll be 9 more, or
9 more.
9 more
yeah,
coming up.
Coming is when I complete the series.
So it's time to collect them all.
Yes, by all means. Yes, somebody needs all of them.
I think they've got a lot of pluck to them. I don't know if that's a good.
Well, these animations give them a lot of pluck. For
Yeah,
sure.
just a little bit. But this one's not quite as psychedelic as the last. Wanted to show, yes, they're paintings. They're not photographs.
Right. Right. No, definitely paintings.
But there's the Roadrunner, right? Was
Yeah.
that a Roadrunner?
Yeah, that was a Roadrunner. I have my paintings are representational, but they're not classically realistic.
Right.
They're not super realistic. I'm
Right.
going to mistake them for photographs.
Right, of course.
But they, like a lot of photorealism, one could, but these are, they're representational. Abstraction, I've tinkered with it, but it's not really my vocabulary.
Yeah.
I don't really speak that language
Right.
effectively, so that's not something I really pursue too much.
Yours are real in the same sense that, like, say, Hopper's were real.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's representing a real scene, and or imagined.
Sure.
But you're not trying to, do well.
There's
You're
nothing-
not trying to make it real.
Nothing trompe-l'oeil about it.
Nothing. Yeah. No trompe l'oeil. They are kind of flat, but in a
Yeah.
really kind of robust way, if that makes any sense.
I've heard them described as sculptured, the forms.
Yeah.
They almost look bas-relief, but they aren't.
Yeah, the animals especially seem like they're
Yeah.
coming out, and trees seem like they're coming out a little bit, but then your backgrounds are completely flat.
Yeah.
Anything else that
Well, some of them are. Some of them have some dimension, but a lot of these birds, state birds, and the animals that I did this time, I started enjoying putting a base color of just a mix of sort of almost expressionistic
Yeah.
mix of colors, and then putting a flat color over it. So some of that mix will come through in places.
very cool.
So it's not flat.
So anything else about the show that you'd like people to know?
That I had a good time making all those things.
I bet.
Come out and see it and have a good time looking at them, hopefully.
So SuperNature is the name of the show, and it opens at Row 2 Art in the Cedars at 1501 South Hervé on Saturday night.
Yes.
And alongside Ray-Mel's show will be an exhibition by T.J. Griffin.
That's really cool
Yeah,
stuff.
called
Really
Earth
enjoying
Island,
his work.
Mind Island.
Island.
And that'll be in the back gallery. So I think these two shows work well together. A lot of paint and environments and different characters to see.
Be a fun mix.
Yeah, I think so. Well, that's really all we have for today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You
I
bet.
had fun.
All right. Bye.